Welcome to the Zolocron Infoverse!
That shows that I'm a leader, because a leader's job is to produce other leaders, not followers.
The Empowerment Zone.
You've written a lot of books about leadership. Can you tell me what sparked that interest?
I was a leader. I've trained, coached, and mentored over like 11,000 people over the last 25 years. So I live and breathe leadership. My first books were about marketing. That was my functional role in the business world. And then I segued into a series of quote books because I was living in Asia, and I always loved quotes even as a kid. So I did these collections of Asian quote books. And then I segued into leadership. It's in my blood too. My father was a fiction author. He wrote 21 novels and about 200 short stories, mystery, Alfred Hitchcock, Ellery Queen type stories, and had a great following. He was well-read. He was probably one of the top short story writers in the 20th century, in the late 20th century in the United States, and before he passed on. But I can't write fiction. I can't write characterization. I can't write dialogue, and I don't want to compete with the old man.
Nice. So, okay, well, I was actually talking to somebody earlier about leadership, and I was talking about the dynamics between masculine and feminine leadership. What are the differences? How is it different in relating? How is it different in being accepted?
Absolutely. I guess there is some masculine and some feminine sides to it, but I think it's not just about leadership. It's the way we interact with people as individuals and based on our genes. I do think women have a harder time in expressing leadership at times for things like you just mentioned. If a woman sometime in the past, and it's fortunately is changing slowly and surely, but very slowly. But if a woman typically in a big organization or says something, and it comes across as curt or rude, she's a bitch. Whereas a guy does that and he's a strong leader, sort of thing. But see, that's how I think leadership is changing. That concept of a strong leader who gets everything out of his people is incorrect now. It won't work in today's world. A good leader today is one who puts everything into his or her people. And that's a huge difference. And I think that's why we saw the Great Resignation trend happening and continuing, a little bit slower, but still continuing. The quiet quitting trends are all related to that brusqueness of leadership, that focus on results, and people don't want that anymore. They've reevaluated their lives and said, you know what, I don't need to put up with this stuff, and therefore people are leaving their jobs. And people have always left bosses, but we're seeing it more and more now.
Oh, I think that's absolutely true. Absolutely. I think that we realize that life is about the journey, and that you're spending an awful lot of time with your employer. They need to be taking steps to make this an enjoyable thing where we are all used to our best, our potential, and we support each other in growing. And I think like what you said was just managerial skills where, I get the best done or get work done. I don't think it's the mindset at all anymore. We want quality of life. We want to be valued and do something we're passionate about and we're happy to, but we also want to have respect shown. Don't just take advantage.
I think, when I talk to leaders and I'll ask them, what's the cost of your people? And, they talk about salaries and benefit packages and days off and medical leave, insurance costs and all that kind of stuff. You need to relook at that. The cost of your people is when you want them to work 50, 60 hours a day, that's putting a cost on their relationships. That's putting a cost on their health. That's putting a cost on their mental well-being. Those are the costs you should be looking at, not the ones that you put on a balance sheet, not the ones that you put in your quarterly earnings report. Those are the costs that a good leader now looks at and understands that, I've had people come to me almost in tears and say, how do I do this? My best friend's getting married on Saturday. This might be a Tuesday or Wednesday conversation. And my boss is now demanding that I do this project, which I would have to work all weekend. And I would have to miss my best friend's wedding, my best friend, my roommate from college. How do I go to my boss and explain that? And I said, you have to go to him and say, you have to put boundaries up and say, I'll get this done. It may not get done to Tuesday. It may not get done on Monday. But, this is a company that's one of the 20 largest companies in the world. There's nothing that she could do or her boss could do that's going to influence the profitability of that company, unless it's a safety issue. Unless they blow up one of their chemical plants or something like that. This is a routine request, and for some reason the boss was demanding it be done by Monday, and there was no rational reason it had to be done by Monday at the sacrifice of missing this poor lady's best friend's wedding. That's the cost that people have to. And she quit. She quit within a month. She said, you know what? I'm going to the wedding, and if he doesn't like it, I'll turn in my resignation. And that's exactly what she did.
Mm-hmm. I don't blame her.
I don't blame her. I don't blame her either.
You know what? That you need to understand. Well, and the people that are working, that you're employing, they are fostering relationships with your customers, with your vendors, and these are all important people. And I think we're moving, I'd like it to be more of a healthy family, not a toxic family relationship. Whereas I think before in the corporate world, when I was still in corporate, it was more, we're a family, but it was a really dysfunctional family. It was like, so I've worked the gamut, and I remember working in retail. And so in retail, all of us, workers were all very close. Like we would, get together and have barbecues together, and we would go camping together. We were very close with each other. It was kind of us against the, management, that's kind of how it went. And then I got a job in corporate, moved over there, and they're like, oh, we're a family. But like girls would be dancing around the office going, if you don't do my work or tell what I tell you, I'll get you fired. And I'm like, what kind of family is that? What are you doing?
Like I come from a toxic family. Sounds like my family. But and this is why, my latest book is called Humany Leadership. And I created the word humany, HUMONY, and I combine human, humanity, and harmony. So talk about the collective workplace, creating harmony. When I was doing the research for the book and talking with leaders, they laughed at me when I said, well, tell me about harmony in your workplace. And they laughed. There's no such thing as, what do you mean by harmony? We're not a band. We're not an orchestra. We don't have harmony. I said, well, what if you did have harmony? What would it feel like? What would it be? What would be the benefits? And when I got people thinking about that and realizing that, we've all individually, when you get in the flow, you kind of lose track of time. You're really working on something. It's really going great. The brain power is going, the creativity is going, the innovation is going. That's flow. Well, that's what harmony in the workplace is. It's flow multiplied. It's flow where several people are in that mode and working together, and no one threatening each other, and everyone supporting each other. No one's cutting anybody down. No one's saying, what a stupid idea that is, or no wonder you think that way. You went to XYZ University. They're all a bunch of idiots over there, and you should have gone to where I went to university type thing. You get away from that demeaning of each other in the workplace, and you can have harmony. And when you have harmony, you'll have creativity, you'll have innovation, you'll have productivity, and most importantly, you'll have cooperative collaboration instead of forced collaboration.
Well, I think forced collaboration ends in people competing with each other that are supposed to be coworkers working together. And so then it fosters those kinds of toxic environments that people are dancing around, threatening to get you fired if you don't jump through their hoops, and they're supposed to be on the same playing field as you.
As does the force ranking system. Look, if you and I are both I worked at a major U.S. bank, and I was one of 11 vice presidents. Well, we're all ranked against each other. So somebody comes to me, I was vice president of marketing, somebody comes to me and wants some creative ideas for some promotion of their some part of their side of the bank, I'm going like, yeah, I might cooperate January through, say, September. But the last 3 months of the year, I'm focusing on my stuff because we're going to get ranked against each other. I'm not going to meetings that might benefit you and won't benefit me. Collaboration goes out the window because I'm going to get force rank against you. And I want my bonus. I'm honest. I want my bonus.
That makes so much sense. I don't know. I think that we're fostering new. I mean, I think, as you said, it's taking some time. It's taking a while. I think that, well, I look at leadership much the same as I do parenting. I parent my kids, and my job is to be an umbrella to protect them. To make sure they have an environment in which to thrive, that they can chase their passions and find how those can be profitable so that they can live, an exciting life. But in my job is to guide, but I have to be an example. I have to be the one, making sure, that they have the way paved for them and that they're protected so that they can thrive and do their best job. And I look at leadership the same way. That's what you're under my wing. And so I'm caring for you. Like if you mess up, I'm gonna cover that, and we're gonna have a conversation on how we can fix that. But that's my job, is to care for you and give you a good environment so that we can all thrive together.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is that your other part of your job is to remove obstacles when you can. I mean, they hit a hurdle, they hit a brick wall, whatever it might be. They're struggling in a say math class, you get them a tutor. If they're struggling in a sport that they like, you get them a private coach or something. I mean, you remove the obstacle, or you find more time to develop them. Yeah, you're developing people. I wrote an article recently where I said the way we manage leaders needs to be changed, and one of the ways we need to change is I would measure a leader on how many of the people in her or his organization has gotten promoted in the last 12 months internally, whether that's within their department or, more importantly, someplace else in the organization. So you're evaluating me. How have I done? I had 23 people report to me. How many of those people have I developed so they can be more valuable to the bank at someplace else other than my department, or promote them within my department to a higher role that they're capable of doing? That shows that I'm a leader, because a leader's job is to produce other leaders, not followers. And so, but we don't measure that. I don't know any organization that measures that.
Well, I think that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing with our children as well. I'm teaching them to go out and be able to do this on their own. And you have to figure out which of these are ones that they should continue going down and persevere, even though it's difficult, or, yeah, that is way not your thing, baby.
Yeah.
You have lots of awards for your books as well. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think I've received a few awards, and the one I'm most proud of comes from the Nonfiction Authors Association. The latest book, the Human Leadership book, got a gold medal, and they called it an important work with an important mission or something like that. And the reason I'm very proud of that one, not because it's a goal, because it came from my peers. It came from the Nonfiction Authors Association is a group of authors and worldwide, and who only write nonfiction or mostly write nonfiction. So you're really getting recognized by your peers. I've won a few reader contests and reader awards, which is, again, great because you write for your readers. But I'd rather get it from my peers, who they understand how difficult it is to write a book, get a book published, and get it into a format that people will understand and want to read.
I think that's true. So for all of our leaders out there, can you tell us 3 of the most important things or skills that we need as leaders in the world today?
I love that question. Number one, when you think about communicating as a leader, it's not about how you get your message across. The 2 most important skills of communication as a leader are listening and asking good questions and good follow-up questions. So that's how you learn. That's how you understand what's on your people's minds. That's how you understand what their obstacles and hurdles are, or you understand how confident they are. So, we often think about the great leaders, the great orators, the John Kennedys and Martin Luther Kings of the world and Margaret Thatchers of the world and things like that. And yeah, that is an important part. but it's not the most important part of for leadership for most people. Most people aren't going to speak at the United Nations and give worldwide speeches. So it's about listening and about communicating. I'd say the second thing is, and it's close to communication, but learn how to give effective feedback. Most people, and most parents too, by the way, they don't give effective feedback. They tell people what they're doing wrong, but they don't tell them the impact. The most important part of feedback is to tell people the impact of what they're doing, the impact on the team, the impact on their relationship with other team members, maybe their relationship on you, and how, if they made improvements, what that impact would be and how they can add value to the organization. And that's why feedback is not very effective usually, because people don't do that. And the third thing is, and this is what I tell everybody, and so it came to my mind immediately as you asked that question. As a leader, never stop learning, because life never stops teaching. And you just have to have that growth mindset, that continuous learning mindset, because the world changes and you never know. I remember, I'll tell real fast here. I remember in May of 2020, after we'd been in pandemic lockdown for 2 months, I'm talking to one of the leaders I coach. He goes, I hate this remote working stuff. This will be over in 2 months. I'll be so glad when it's over. I can't stand having to have these Zoom conversations with people. And blah, blah. Well, 2 years, 3 years later, we're still learning how to lead people remotely and how to feedback remotely. And so, you got to learn how to do that. And we, everyone has kind of learned the hard way in some cases how to, give performance reviews, even worse, how to hire remotely, how to interview remotely, how to onboard remotely. So these are skills. Don't ever stop learning, because you never know what you're going to need next month or next year.
That's absolutely true. Wow. Yeah, that's good stuff. I think that's super important. When you hit on how to give good feedback, because you're right. What we do is like, here's all the things you did wrong. And that's just going to make anybody close down and be like, well, I hate you. You're a jerk, and if you're like, hey, this made me feel this way, and we could have better results if we did this, this, and this, or if this is the path that we went down instead.
Same for parents. You have to focus on one thing. If you tell your son, hey, go rake the leaves, take the trash bins out to the curb, and you forgot to empty the dishwasher. And by the way, your room's a mess. Clean that too. They don't know where to start. And so what do? Your son probably goes to his room and starts playing the drums because he doesn't know. Yeah, but if you focus on one thing, hey, son, you didn't empty the dishwasher. That's one of your chores. Please get that done in the next half hour, because when I cook the dinner tonight, I'm going to have all these pots and pans, and we're going to need to put them in the dishwasher. I'm going to need the space. Can you do that for me, please? Sure, Mom. And you'll go do it.
You're totally right. If you give a list, they don't even hear one of them. They will do absolutely. I think they get overwhelmed, and they will do not one of them. They're just like, I didn't hear what you said.
Well, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do first, so I just waited till you tell me. And that's the same in the workplace. You tell somebody, they didn't do this, they didn't do this, they didn't do this, and by the way, this was not good quality or not up to our standards, without explaining what that means.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Well, my boss is a jerk. My boss doesn't like me. I think I'll go look for another job.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what happens regularly.
One of the key things in the book, Human Leadership, is that I very specifically say, you manage things, you manage processes, you manage policies, you manage procedures, you manage projects. You don't manage people, you lead people. And if you can get that mindset change. Now, I admit there are times when you have to manage people, but you want to keep that down to 10 or 15%. You don't want to be 90, 95% where you're managing people and only 5% where you're leading them. So if you put that focus on them, and I have to lead people, which means I need to mentor them, coach them, I need to listen to them, I need to guide them, I need to develop them, then you're going to have you'll have sustainable success for the longer term. And that's what people don't focus on.
So can you tell me where you are most active online so that we can follow you and get more information?
I'm probably most active online now on LinkedIn, quite frankly. You can find me under Stephen Howard. It'll say Greater Los Angeles areas. It's not a fairly common name, but it's not an unusual name. So just go Stephen Howard. Company is called Caliente Leadership. Caliente in Spanish, as most people know, means hot. But the second definition of caliente is passionate. A conversation caliente is a passionate conversation. So the company is called Caliente Leadership because I'm passionate about leadership. And also where I live in Palm Springs in Southern California, the land is owned by the Agua Caliente, the hot water, the Agua Caliente band of Indians. So it's my tribute to our Native American landowners, because that's where my house is on. It's leased Indian land, as most of the Palm Springs area is. So it's partly my tribute to that. So yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably about, and YouTube. If you really want, your audience is interested in learning stuff, I put a lot of free content on my YouTube channel. It's just called Stephen Howard on Leadership. And I'm constantly putting new videos and ideas there. So those are probably the two biggest places that you can find me or follow me or get some free content from.
Okay. I will put those in the description box so everyone can get a hold of them. That would be great. Thank you so much. I had a great time talking to you today. I appreciate you coming on.
It was fun. It was fabulous. It was a nice conversation.
The Zarlaquan Indieverse.